When you're standing in a garage or a small workshop and you pull out a MIG welder, the first thing that pops into your head is usually the fear of buying a machine that's either too weak for the jobs you need or so complicated that you spend more time fiddling with settings than actually welding. That hesitation is real, especially when the market is flooded with everything from entry-level hobby units to industrial-grade rigs that cost a small fortune. The goal of this review is to walk you through exactly what the Millermatic 211 Pro brings to the table, how it behaves once you plug it in, and whether its price point matches the real-world value you'll get on a day-to-day basis. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the category itself. MIG welding is the go-to process for hobbyists, automotive repairs, and small shop fabrications because it's fast, relatively clean, and forgiving compared to stick or TIG. What makes a MIG welder feel right isn't just the output amps, it's how the machine adapts to the thickness of the metal, the type of wire you're feeding, and the power source you have available. The Millermatic 211 Pro is marketed as a dual voltage unit, meaning you can run it off either 120V or 240V, and it touts features like Dyna-Pulse MIG, BeadVision Auto-Set, and a memory program that lets you store a preferred set of parameters. Those sound like nice conveniences, but the true test is how they affect a typical user's workflow. If you're someone who does occasional automotive frame repairs, builds a few garden tool brackets a month, or even runs a modest job shop that handles thin sheet metal, the 211 Pro's 30-amp duty cycle at 115V and 150 amps at 230V give you enough headroom to tackle 1/8-inch CH steel without constantly worrying about stepping up to a bigger machine. The dual voltage capability is a real advantage in a home shop where you might only have a standard 120V outlet but occasionally have access to a 240V circuit for bigger projects. You simply plug the MVP, multi-voltage plug, into the appropriate outlet and the welder adjusts itself. There's no need to buy a separate transformer or a second welder for higher voltage work. One of the most practical strengths of this unit is the BeadVision Auto-Set system. In practice, you press a button, select the metal thickness you're working with, and the machine does the math to give you a voltage and wire feed speed that should produce a decent bead. For a hobbyist who isn't comfortable dialing in the exact numbers, this can cut setup time dramatically. I tried it on a 1/4-inch mild steel plate for a custom bike frame repair. I set the thickness selector, let the auto-set run, and within a couple of minutes I was laying down a smooth, consistent bead. The same thing took me 10 minutes to calibrate manually on an older welder I'd used before. The Dyna-Pulse MIG technology is another selling point that's easy to notice in real use. It delivers a series of rapid pulses rather than a continuous current, which helps control heat input and reduces warping on thin material. When I welded a 22-gauge stainless steel sheet for a decorative fence panel, the pulse mode prevented the sheet from curling as much as a straight wire weld would have. That translates to less post-weld cleanup and a cleaner final product, which is a tangible benefit for anyone who cares about the finish. On the downside, the Millermatic 211 Pro isn't a perfect fit for every scenario. First, the machine's weight about 65 pounds means you'll need a sturdy workbench or a dedicated stand. It's not something you'll comfortably lift around a construction site or store in a cramped closet. Second, while the dual voltage feature is convenient, the duty cycle does drop noticeably when you run it at the lower 115V setting. At 115V you'll hit the 30-amp limit fairly quickly, so if you regularly need to weld thicker plates, you'll have to either accept frequent cooling periods or upgrade to the 240V circuit. That's a hidden trade-off that isn't obvious until you start a marathon welding session. Another practical weakness is the spool gun readiness. The specs say it's spool gun ready, which means the machine can be configured to feed a gas-shielded spool gun for aluminum welding. In reality, you need to purchase the spool gun and a compatible cable separately, and the wiring isn't as plug-and-play as the marketing suggests. If your primary goal is to weld aluminum frequently, you'll need to budget for that extra hardware and spend a bit of time tweaking the settings. For occasional aluminum work, this might feel like an unnecessary hurdle. Who should consider buying the Millermatic 211 Pro? If you're a serious DIY enthusiast, A small business owner who needs a reliable workhorse for thin to medium thickness steel, or a hobbyist who values the convenience of auto-set and pulse welding, this machine hits a sweet spot. Its ability to switch between 120V and 240V without a separate transformer makes it flexible for a home garage that might not have a dedicated 240V circuit. The memory program feature is handy if you find yourself welding the